Awakening the lion within, embracing our innate genius and redefining success. Welcome to the BlackCEO Podcast, where we dive deep into conversations that challenge perspectives and ignite inner fires. Today, we're in for a truly transformative experience as we explore insights from the remarkable Maritsa Barros De Sena, a visionary leader whose wisdom is reshaping our understanding of success, identity, and personal power. Maritsa isn't just a thought leader. She's a catalyst for change, a beacon of hope, and a force of nature in the fight for equity and empowerment. Her work has touched countless lives, sparking a revolution of self-love and fearless leadership that's rippling across communities and generations. Now let's dive in. Have you ever stopped to wonder why we as Black people often struggle to recognize the genius that lies within us? Why do we sometimes feel the need to shrink ourselves or conform to a world that wasn't built with us in mind? These questions have kept me up at night. And they're the same questions that led me to Maritsa's door. When Maritsa speaks, you listen. Her words carry the weight of generations, the fire of revolution, and the warmth of a mother's love. She opened our conversation with the truth bomb that shook me to my core. It's time we recognize the natural-born genius that lies within us as Black people. Now, let that sink in for a moment. Natural-born genius. Not something we have to earn or prove, but something that's already there, waiting to be awakened. It's like we've been carrying around a superpower all our lives, but someone convinced us it was just a party trick. But here's the kicker. Maritsa isn't just talking about feel-good affirmations or empty praise. She's talking about a fundamental shift in how we see ourselves and our place in the world. She's talking about self-awareness, self-love, and self-acceptance as the foundation of success. Not just any success, but the kind of success that changes the game for everyone. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Self-love, that sounds nice. But how's that going to pay my bills or get me that promotion? Well, let me tell you, it's not just about feeling good about yourself, although that's certainly part of it. It's about recognizing your worth, your potential, and your power in a world that often tries to deny it. Maritsa shared a story that really drove this point home. She talked about a young Black woman she mentored. Let's call her Jasmine. Jasmine was brilliant, talented, and hardworking. She had all the qualifications for a leadership position in her tech company, but she kept holding herself back. Why? Because she didn't see herself as a leader. She didn't believe she belonged in those rooms where decisions were made. Sound familiar? I bet it does. We've all been there, haven't we? Doubting ourselves, second-guessing our abilities, wondering if we're good enough to take up space. But here's what Maritsa did. She didn't just give Jasmine a pep talk. She helped her unlearn those limiting beliefs and relearn her own value. And that's the key word here, unlearning. Maritsa emphasized that to truly embrace our genius, we need to actively unlearn the lies we've been told about ourselves and our capabilities. We need to challenge the status quo, not just out there in the world, but in here in our own minds. This isn't easy work, folks. It's not comfortable. It's not always pretty. But let me tell you, it's necessary. Because when we start to see ourselves clearly, when we start to love ourselves fiercely, that's when we can truly start to lead fearlessly. Now, let's talk about this idea of fearless leadership. Maritsa isn't talking about being fearless in the sense of never feeling afraid. She's talking about leading despite the fear, about pushing through the discomfort because you know your voice, your ideas, your presence is needed. She shared another powerful story about a time when she was the only Black woman in a room full of executives. The topic of diversity came up and everyone turned to her, expecting her to speak for all Black people everywhere. Now, we've all been in situations like this, right? Where suddenly you're not just yourself, but a representative of your entire race. But here's what Maritsa did. She didn't shrink. She didn't try to make everyone comfortable. Instead, she used that moment to challenge the very premise of the conversation. She asked why diversity was being treated as a Black issue when it's really about creating a more inclusive and equitable environment for everyone. She turned the spotlight back on her colleagues and asked them to examine their own roles in perpetuating or dismantling systemic barriers. That, my friends, is fearless leadership. It's not about having all the answers or never making mistakes. It's about being willing to ask the hard questions, to challenge the status quo, to use your voice even when it shakes. But here's the thing. That kind of leadership doesn't just happen overnight. It's cultivated through self-awareness, nurtured by self-love, and empowered by self-acceptance. It's about knowing who you are, where you come from, and the power you carry within you. And that brings us to another crucial point that Maritsa emphasized, the importance of knowing our history. Not just the sanitized version we get in textbooks, but the real, raw, unfiltered truth of who we are as a people. She dropped the truth bomb that I'm still processing. We are the original people of this land. Now, I know that might sound controversial to some, but stick with me here. Maritsa isn't talking about rewriting history books or making claims without evidence. She's talking about reclaiming our narrative, about understanding the depth and breadth of our contributions to human civilization. Think about it. How many of us grew up learning about the great African empires? How many of us were taught about the scientific, mathematical, and philosophical advancements that came out of Africa? How many of us know about the rich cultural traditions and sophisticated societies that existed long before colonization? This knowledge isn't just academic, it's transformative. When we understand the greatness we come from, it becomes easier to believe in the greatness within us. When we know our history, we can better shape our future. But here's where Maritsa really blew my mind. She talked about this knowledge, this self-awareness, as a form of personal power. Not power over others, but power within ourselves. The power to define who we are, rather than accepting the definitions imposed on us by others. She shared a powerful analogy that I can't get out of my head. She said, imagine you're a lion who's been raised by sheep. You've been told all your life that you're a sheep, that you should act like a sheep, think like a sheep, but deep down you know something's not right. You have these instincts, these abilities that don't fit with what you've been told about yourself. That's what it's like for many of us. We're lions who've been conditioned to think we're sheep. Now, let that sink in for a moment. How many of us have felt that disconnect, that sense that we're capable of more, that we're meant for more, but we've been conditioned to play small? This is where the real work begins. This is where we start to roar. And this is crucial. Maritsa emphasized that this awakening, this reclaiming of our power, isn't about dominating others or proving our superiority. It's about stepping into our full potential so we can better serve our communities, our people, and the world at large. She talked about success not just in terms of individual achievement, but in terms of collective uplift. When one of us wins, we all win, she said. But for that to happen, we need to redefine what winning looks like. This redefinition of success is revolutionary. It's not about climbing corporate ladders or accumulating wealth for its own sake. It's about creating pathways for others, about using our success to open doors and create opportunities. It's about recognizing that true success isn't just about what we achieve for ourselves, but about how we elevate those around us. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but what about the real world challenges we face? What about systemic racism, economic disparities, and all the other obstacles in our way? Maritsa doesn't shy away from these realities. In fact, she confronts them head on. But here's the key. She doesn't see these challenges as insurmountable barriers. Instead, she sees them as opportunities for transformation. She shared a perspective that honestly shook me. The system wasn't built for us, so why are we trying so hard to fit into it? Instead of trying to succeed within a broken system, why not create our own systems? Why not redefine success on our own terms? This isn't about giving up or checking out of society. It's about recognizing our power to shape the world around us rather than just reacting to it. It's about being proactive rather than reactive, about creating rather than just consuming. Maritsa talked about entrepreneurship not just as a path to individual wealth, but as a tool for community empowerment. She shared stories of Black entrepreneurs who are creating businesses that solve problems in their communities, that provide jobs and opportunities, that build wealth that stays within the community. Take the story of Marcus, for example. Marcus grew up in a food desert where fresh, healthy food was hard to come by. Instead of just complaining about the problem, he saw an opportunity. He started an urban farming initiative, turning vacant lots into thriving community gardens. Not only is he providing fresh produce to his neighborhood, but he's also creating jobs, teaching valuable skills, and building a sense of community pride. Or consider the story of Aisha, a brilliant software engineer who was tired of being the only Black woman in her tech company. Instead of trying to fit into a culture that didn't value her, she started her own tech startup. Her company not only creates innovative products, but also prioritizes hiring and mentoring other black women in tech. She's not just building a business, she's creating a pipeline for talent that has been historically overlooked. These stories aren't just feel-good anecdotes, they're examples of what's possible when we embrace our genius, when we refuse to be limited by the systems that weren't built for us, when we create our own definitions of success. But it's not just about business, it's about education, healthcare, politics, arts, and culture, every aspect of society. Maritsa challenges us to look at these areas and ask ourselves, how can we innovate here? How can we create systems that truly serve our needs and reflect our values? This kind of thinking requires courage. It requires vision. And most of all, it requires that self-awareness and self-love we talked about earlier. Because to create new systems, to challenge the status quo, we need to believe in ourselves and our capabilities. Now, I know this all might sound overwhelming. You might be thinking, well, where do I even start? Well, Maritsa has an answer for that too, and it's beautifully simple. Start with yourself. Start by examining your own beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of. Start by challenging the limitations you've placed on yourself. Start by loving yourself fiercely and unapologetically. Maritsa shared a daily practice that I've started doing, and let me tell you, it's powerful. Every morning, look in the mirror and say to yourself, I am the descendant of kings and queens. I carry the wisdom of my ancestors. I have the power to shape my reality. It might feel awkward at first. It might even feel silly, but keep doing it because the words we speak to ourselves matter. They shape our reality, but don't stop there. Maritsa challenges us to take this self-love and self-awareness out into the world, to use our voices, to take up space, to challenge injustice when we see it, to support and uplift each other, to create opportunities not just for ourselves, but for our communities. She talked about the importance of mentorship, of reaching back and pulling others up as we climb. She challenged us to think about success not as a zero-sum game, but as a collective journey. Your success is my success, she said. And together, our success can change the world. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought from Maritsa, one that's been echoing in my mind since our conversation. She said, no one is coming to save us, but that's okay because we have the power to save ourselves. Let that sink in. No one is coming to save us, but we don't need saving. We need awakening. We need to awaken to our own power, our own potential, our own genius. So here's my challenge to you, inspired by Maritsa's wisdom. Take a moment right now to think about one limiting belief you have about yourself. One thing you've told yourself you can't do or you're not good enough for. Now, I want you to question that belief. Where did it come from? Is it really true? Or is it just a story you've been told? And then I want you to replace that limiting belief with an empowering one. Instead of I can't, and I say I can learn. Instead of I'm not good enough, say I am worthy and capable. Do this every day. Challenge your limitations. Embrace your genius. Love yourself fiercely. And watch how it transforms not just your life, but the lives of those around you. But don't stop there. Take this newfound self-awareness and use it to create change in your community. Maybe that means mentoring a young person or starting a business that addresses a need in your neighborhood. Maybe it means running for local office or creating art that tells our stories. Whatever it is, do it with the full force of your genius, with the knowledge that you are capable of greatness. And as you do this work, remember that you're not alone. Look around you. You just see the genius in your brothers and sisters. Uplift them as they uplift you. Because when we rise together, we rise higher. We stand at a crossroads in history. The old systems are crumbling, and we have the opportunity to build something new, something better. But to do that, we need to embrace our power, our genius, our lion-like nature. So I ask you, are you ready to roar? Are you ready to shake off the sheep's clothing and embrace your true nature? Are you ready to redefine success on your own terms and create a world that reflects our values and our potential? The choice is yours. The power is yours. The genius is yours. Remember, you are the descendant of kings and queens. You carry the wisdom of your ancestors. You have the power to shape your reality. And together, we have the power to change the world. Now go forth, embrace your genius, and let your light shine so brightly that it illuminates the path for others. The world is waiting for your roar. Thank you.